Welcome to Backroom Talk.
We have Brandon Wilton here from all the way from CrossFit South Bend in Indiana.
We're CrossFit gym, hybrid model. I started doing CrossFit in 2007, affiliated in 08. OPEX had spurred me, and what it does is it makes you notice a lot of the things going on in your own business. And there's the marketing message, so, right, like constantly having to, can you curse on this podcast?
You go for it.
Unfuck a lot of things.
To listen to more Backroom Talk, be sure to subscribe. Learn to design personalized programs with the OPEX system of coaching by heading to opexfit.com.
All right. Well, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Backroom Talk. We are joined by a very special guest today. We have Brandon Wilton here from all the way from CrossFit South Bend in Indiana. And what are you doing here at headquarters, Brandon?
Oh, what did James say? To experience that which can only be experienced in person in fitness, right? Yeah, it sounds cryptic, right? So
I'm trying to picture that. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
We're finding out right now. We're finding out right now. Just to learn, ask questions, experience, see what's going on at OPEX, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's certainly awesome to have you around. We also have a couple CCP coaches, Carrie and Claylee, are here with us as well. So, yeah, just great to have a little bit of in-person connection, and we're definitely taking advantage of that, sitting down, learning a little bit about you and your story today. So, thanks for being with us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, and I'm a massive Notre Dame fan. So your guys' shirts, is it like train like a champion today?
Yeah.
Or is that what it says?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
I was actually going to ask you to bring me one of those, and I totally forgot.
Oh, shoot, I'll send you one over.
Yeah, send me one of those over, man.
I got
I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. So as soon as I figured out that you were from South Bend, which I don't know if I didn't think there was anything else in South Bend except for Notre Dame.
There's a lot
and obviously your gym.
That's it. Yeah, those two things are the
But
only
no,
thing.
it's cool. Yeah. Those I saw those shirts. We were looking at your website last week, and I was like, oh, those are sweet.
I got you.
Those are awesome.
There we go.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your gym. What is it? How long has it been in operation? Just give us a background.
Yeah, we're CrossFit gym, hybrid model. I started doing CrossFit in 2007, affiliated in 08, and opened a brick and mortar in 2009. We've got 11 of us, including me, 4 full-time staff, and the rest are part-time staff. And then we have 2 other individual designer OPEX coaches. One's finishing up right now. My business partner, Carl, is going through, and then Robbie, fitness and philosophy. Check it out. You know,
A little pump for those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little about that. We've got a little over 150 people. So yeah.
What's hybrid?
Ooh, hybrid. So I would consider it to be remote coaching.
Okay.
So essentially, we don't have a floor coach. We do have it's a Notre Dame area, so do have a lot of students that bounce out, go to Chicago, go to New York. So we'll program for them and service them remotely, and then outside of that, I would consider the rest of them training inside because there's no floor coach. So I'd consider that to be remote. So that, and then we have CrossFit in our group.
So like typical or classic, what most people would understand is like a typical group model. You have a coach coaching clients in that group atmosphere, and then you're calling it hybrid because there's individual design happening, but you're saying it's remote because there's not a floor coach. So like people can still use your gym that are individual design clients, but you don't have like a service dedicated to that.
Yeah. It's this essentially they have access to the gym as they're going. Yeah.
Cool. Just want to make sure everyone understood what hybrid meant.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's a bunch of different, you hear that term thrown out a lot, and it's like hybrid, and then there's like different service offerings happening inside of it. So I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page in terms of what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, so that's what we're up to.
Was opening the gym your first foray into coaching in the fitness industry, or did you have any background before that?
Yeah, that was my first foray.
Yeah,
right into it. So I managed a restaurant for 10 years. Was a firefighter at the time, and then started that in like I said, in 2007, 2008, 2009, and then started because it's everyone's, story that they can relate to. Like, hey, here's Fran. Cool, let's do it.
Yep.
You jump in and then, move on from there.
What's the biggest difference between Brandon as a gym owner back when you started and then Brandon as a gym owner today?
Oh God, experience. So many mistakes, hundreds and thousands of mistakes. Yeah. So The difference between me then, I just enjoyed fitness. I enjoyed there was something there, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Right now, I understand it a little bit more. I understand what my mission is and purpose and just everything behind it. I've done a lot of reflecting over the last 5 years, and I think I can owe a lot of that to OPEX. Is just why am I doing this? What is this happening here? So,
What is that? What is that for you? Like, what is that mission and purpose, and like what are you talking to your staff about? What are you talking to your members about, and why you guys are doing what you're doing?
oh gosh, yeah. So we want to help guide people. Guide people to their ideal version of fitness. And I know there's like this, there's a marketing message there that's different, that's hard with CrossFit because people come in through CrossFit and you've got, a lot of mixed messages on what their preconceived notion of fitness is. So I would say that that's like we're at this divergent point right now where there's like me, my mission, and what I want to serve and how I want to serve clients. To walk alongside, to guide people to their, ideal version of fitness, live a larger life through fitness, that kind of stuff. And then there's, the group model where it's, people who have a high priority on social interaction and that kind of stuff. So we're just we're having a lot of conversations about that back and forth right now.
Yeah, I'd imagine. How are you guys, because with the changes in CrossFit leadership about a year ago now, and that mission changing from CrossFit and becoming, to a lot of people, more clear in what CrossFit is and what they're trying to do. How do you take, and I don't even know if you're thinking about what CrossFit's mission is, but you're using a lot of OPEX language, and you're not an OPEX gym, right? Like you're a CrossFit affiliate, and you have this hybrid thing, so you're doing this CrossFit thing, you're doing a little bit of this OPEX thing. How do you guys wrap your brains around connecting to CrossFit versus connecting to OPEX, or melding those things together? Have you guys found that quite yet, or are you still trying to figure that out through those conversations?
Just tons of conversations.
Yeah.
We'll sit there on a Sunday and I'll get a question from somebody in a group class and say, well, let's listen. Who wants to sit and talk about this?
Yeah.
And we'll talk to a group of 15 people in a class and say, you're all getting a different dose response. You're all getting this. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. Here's where this falls short. If you just want social interaction and you want to move around a little bit, and here's some principle base, but here's how this workout can fall short.
Yeah.
And then I just lay it out, and people are like, oh, that's. Well, they either want that because social is more important than them or they're like, oh, I'm interested in what you're doing here with OPEX individual design.
Yeah. And
then they make that gap.
Does that, and forgive me because I don't know the exact purpose of CrossFit and what they changed last year with Eric coming on, but do you connect with whatever that is, or what, you know what I'm saying? Like, is your message aligned with what CrossFit is when you sit those group members down and you're like, hey, there's a different dose response, there's this, there's that. Is that message aligned with CrossFit, or is that just Brandon and South Bend?
That's Brandon and South Bend. I can't remember the last time we even had anyone reach out to us. I think in 13 years, one time someone reached out to us from like HQ, and that's it. That's the disconnect right there. I couldn't even tell you how their missions changed.
Yep.
The only way I can tell is through how people are perceiving it when they come in, right?
Yeah.
When CrossFit Games and the rest of this stuff was super huge, we'd be getting a bunch of people in, and I had to field people that are like, I want to go to the games, right?
Yeah.
So like, just how people are perceiving it coming in, that's how I know how their message is, right?
I'd love to hear a little bit about that, because it's been a long while since I've been in a CrossFit gym. It's been a long while for Carl as well. So what is the changing perception from the end consumer when it comes to looking for a CrossFit gym and reaching out to you guys?
I still think there's this like lingering notion of like CrossFit high intensity. I would say it's old hat now. I think, and James would say, you're responsible for the people that are in front of you, right? Like these people are in front of you because of the message we're putting out. And I think, we use, look better, feel better, perform better, but we change that language as we kind of get into it. But I think people are coming in with just general fitness goals. And then I try and say, like, we have a conversation with everyone as they come in, like, is this right for you? Here's this other option that's probably more than likely going to be better for you in the long run. So we always offer this up back and forth. But to answer your question, the preconceived notions that people are coming in, I think they still have these lingering, like, ooh, high intensity, this, do Murph hero workouts every week. There's a few people that still are left over from that, but not as much anymore these days.
It's a good opportunity for you guys to educate those people, though, right? Because, like, it's challenging, man. Like, I don't know the exact number. I think it has to be upwards of 13,000 affiliates that CrossFit has at this point. It's challenging to have a conversation with each one of those affiliates. So I think it'd be unfair if we're like, oh, why aren't they reaching out to Brandon every year and having conversations and stuff like that? So I just want to make it super clear, like, we're not putting them down for not doing those things, because I think that would be challenging. But the people that are coming in and they have these preconceived notions, it is probably because they've known someone that's done CrossFit before, or they're watching the CrossFit games, and it gives you guys a really good opportunity to dig a little bit deeper with those people, and that's beneficial that those things put them on your doorstep per se. But I do think that's a good opportunity to educate those people and let those people know, like, hey, this is what we believe here. This is why it's the same or different than what those preconceived notions are.
Yeah, that's definitely something we have to differentiate. Is it like, here's how we write a program. Here's what this looks like. Don't expect that it's completely different each week. It's going to be this. I've got an avatar. I'm very transparent about it. And here's what's going to happen week by week. And I shoot a video for my clients each week to say, like, here's what's happening. And here's the pros and cons of that. We're squatting on this day and this day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool. I think, well, let's jump right here. Where do you, is what you're doing ideal for you guys? Like, are you going to be doing the same thing in 3 years, 5 years? Like, are you going down this path of, like, we're going to keep leaning into this thing, or are you guys going to make some shifts? And I only ask this question because I think there's a lot of people listening that are in your exact situation, where they're in, like, this hybrid model, and they're trying to figure out, do I want to stay the path here? Do I want to go one way or the other? And, I think everyone needs to make whatever decision's right for them. So I don't want to, like, steer someone into that. But just, where are you guys? Like, what are you guys going to be doing in the next 3 to 5 years? If you guys have, I'm sure you've thought about those things. But what does that look like for you?
Man, that's a really good question. So OPEX had spurred me, and what it does is it makes you notice a lot of the things going on in your own business and how it kind of falls short, and what your ideal version, like, of making a living looks like too, right? And making a living and being able to afford things for your coaches and offering them a security. So I don't do anything without, I'm very safe. I wouldn't want to switch to an OPEX gym if I didn't have enough facility and staff to do that. So my coaches are being trained up. I went through the business accelerator. Like, why would I jump into an OPEX gym unless I knew 100% exactly everything, had SOPs written out, turnkey, everything. Of course, there's always going to be some lay over the top, but I believe in that model, and I'm positioning myself in that direction. And now I'm personally at this crossroads of saying, is this something that I want as a gym? Do I want to do this? Is there a place philosophically for social interaction in group classes? And what does that look like? Or is this where I want to go? So a lot of it just me diving in and experiencing here, experiencing the accelerator. I'm working with Sam Smith right now, and just, like, constantly learning and just asking myself those questions. And then once I'm sure of it, then picking that lane,
What are the cons of that, like, in your own head, when you're like, do I want to make this shift to completely individual design? Because I know that you and Melissa walk through, the course content, what you guys are experiencing there and all of that. I'm sure you've reflected on that, going through that process, and even up until today, where you're like, if I made that shift, what are the negative things that would come from going from this hybrid model to completely individual design? Like, what are the things that are holding you back, or you're like, I'm a little bit too safe to make that decision right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you build something over 13 years, there's always that fear of, like, you almost like where you're starting over. How can I do this in a most calculated way so that there is, build up each client base and then, hit that switch. So there's that fear. I think that is I don't know if to say that's a con or otherwise, but, just the upfront work, and that you're willing to do the upfront work, that you're willing to, if you have part-time employees, I do have a lot of part-time employees. They're fantastic. I have, a great staff, fantastic, but I may not need all of those people, or maybe they're floor coaching, and what happens there, right? So like making those hard decisions as a business owner, that is most of it. I wouldn't say, again, it's a con, but like you have a lot of hard decisions to make if you want to start over with a new business model, relearn things. I think if you've been doing it for a while, you get comfortable in your, your own cadence there and what you're doing. So yeah, that's definitely, I would say, fears, maybe not cons. Is it, understanding and like, the target market in your area? Is there enough to sustain this, right? People don't know about OPEX as much. So is this like, how is this going to work? I think those are some of the other things, is there enough target market in this area?
Yeah.
On the flip side, what are the cons of the current model you're in, where you are running this kind of hybrid situation with group and with remote ID clients as well? Like, are there any cons to that you're experiencing?
Yeah, there's cons on a coach level, on a business level. It divides my time and thought, when I'm doing a lot of that stuff, and just different things. There's the marketing message, right? Like constantly having to, can you curse on this podcast?
You go for it.
Unfuck a lot of things as people start to come in, and then you're kind of, having to rewire people. And in a group model, you don't get as much conversation, right? And then it's even harder to undo that, right? So you're just bringing people in and you're like, hey, this isn't right, and they're like, I don't care, So I think that's a really hard thing to deal with in that. And I think a lot of people get into the stratified model of having a bunch of things, and if anything, just simplifying it always feels like a better pro for me. This is it. This is the one service. We do really, really good job at this one service. So yeah, did that answer your question?
It definitely did. I think there's trade-offs to every single situation that you could find yourself in, right? And obviously the one you're in right now, where you do have this group class and this individual design going on at the same time, that has been born out of, past experiences and, where you started the business and, the education you've been through. And there's parts that are positive to all of those things. Like, I think it would be crazy to say that there aren't, positives to a group fitness model. Like you said, the social interaction piece is so key. So I think it's whatever way you decide to go, Brandon. Like, you're always going to lose something. We cannot have everything in this world, but we can certainly have anything and like really lean into that one thing and do it super well. So I just think it's interesting to hear your reflections on it for sure.
Yeah, if you're saying that you've got professional fitness coaches and it's not half of your staff's profession or otherwise, that's a struggle. That's something that sits with me, and I'm like, can I say that? What does this look like? What kind of a business do I want to run, and what do I want it to give back to me, and what do I want to serve to the community? How am I going to make a greater impact? Yeah, there's a lot of questions in there. So
yeah, that piece of like believing it first is extremely important, right? And it's like, it's so hard to say, this model is ideal, or this model is perfect. It's all about what the person that's delivering those models or that model really, really believes. Because if you sat here and you're like, oh man, like, this individual design thing is shitty. Like, I hate doing it, but it's a good revenue stream. I'm stratifying my business model. But you're like, I love group fitness. That's what I really love, right? Like, or if you said it the other way, where you're like, this group thing is shitty, but I don't want to lose members, blah, blah, blah. That's the only reason I'm keeping it. People are just going to smell that. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, Brandon and these guys, they're doing this thing just to earn a buck, right? Like, they don't actually believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it starts for a lot of gym owners. And gosh, the questions that we get all the time, man, like the questions that we're asking you, those are some of the questions we get a lot. And it's like, what should I do? And it's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Yeah. How are we supposed to tell you what you should do based on our beliefs? It was like that's not moving the needle at all for you. So it's like, what do you actually want to do? And that's why I asked you the question of like, are you going to be doing the same thing you're doing in 3 to 5 years and all that? Because I think a lot can be sussed out just thinking about, what it is that you want to do and where you want this thing to go. So I think just people listening to like what you're doing and what you've done and the things that you're learning, they can learn a lot from that, and it's like, it doesn't have to, once you feel a certain way, you don't have to like shift right now where it's like, I need to completely turn everything upside down. Like, safety has to be something that everyone thinks about. Financial safety in someone's business has to be something that people think about. We've seen it go the wrong way, where people are like, this group thing, like, I'm out. I'm flipping it tomorrow. Yeah. And they lose 90% of their members, right?
Oh,
and like,
God.
we've seen it the other way where they've held on to 90%, but there's nothing worse than someone making that bad decision and putting themselves back 5, 10, 13 years of work that they've done, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely an over planner. I'm definitely have security as like a really high priority, and just worrying about my, my full-time staff. Like, I can't just, hey, we're flipping it. Well, they aren't OPEX. They're not on board. How about they go through it? How about they experience it? Now everyone's on board. Now we've got the same message, right? And then we can shift in that direction a bit more. But yeah, that's a huge one for me. Is making sure everyone has security, and making sure that it's viable and sustainable, feasible, all that stuff.
Just has to be led with what you call the purpose, where it's like, what is the purpose and the mission of this gym? You know what I mean? Like, that has to be the leading guiding force, right? That might, to get to that purpose or to get to that mission, might be an endeavor that you're always moving toward and you're never actually capturing, but that has to be the thing that's guiding it, right? Because if you say, like, your mission is, or your purpose was like the ideal version of fitness thing, if I was your staff, I'd be like, okay, Brandon, well, what is an ideal version of fitness? And I'm not asking you that, I'm not putting you on the spot right here, but if I was your staff, I would ask you that. And, if you're like, this is exactly what it looks like, this is what a relationship looks like, this is what a training session looks like, they, even if they agree with it or not, they now have context. Like, okay, that's what we're moving toward. But if it's that situation of like, we might go this way, we might go that way, let's feel it out, let's do this, everyone's just going to get strung along, and then eventually they're going to be like, I don't know what the hell is going on here. I'm going to go figure something else out because I don't feel safe here, because I have no idea what direction this thing is going. So, yeah, no question there. Just wanted to point out, like, I do think that it has to, that purpose and mission does have to be clear so people can get on board with it or not. And if they don't get on board with it, it's like, this isn't the business for me.
Yeah, definitely a lot of conversations around that purpose, and a lot of my coaches have been from that CrossFit model, and then I switch and I learn and I do a lot of those things. So I need to have a lot of communication, explanation, and it helps to go through the stuff as well too. But got to have a lot of conversations to get people on board with it. And if they're not, and that's okay. But that's interesting.
What advice would you give a coach that's listening, that's kind of in that spot that I imagine you were in a few years ago, where you're like, man, I want to do something a little bit different, but I don't know what it is that I want to do. Like, what advice, like, how can a coach figure out what their purpose and what their mission is, and what they're put on this earth to do?
Oh yeah,
I know it's a huge question.
I think it's a lot of experience, and then a lot of reflecting. I think OPEX, like I said, I can owe a lot of it to a lot of self-reflection to me, and then, well, let's just try this. Yeah. Now reflect on it. Now let's just try this. Now reflect on it. And then just constantly going through this back and back and back. And I think it comes with age as well too, and being in there, you're not going to get in fitness for your first year and be like, or maybe you do. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't, that's for sure. It's taken me a lot of years, but a lot of experience, and then a lot of self-reflection. Yeah.
We chatted about gym culture a couple weeks ago, more from the perspective of the individual coach that's inside of a gym. But I'd love to hear a little bit from you, Brandon, as the leader of a team, the owner of the gym, some of the ways, especially amongst your team and amongst your group of coaches, how do you help them create, great gym culture? What are some of the things you're doing to create synergy and consistency between the team, to make sure you don't have all these disparate ideas that are disconnected and disillusioned? What do you do on your end?
Oh, wow. Yeah. We've done a lot of mentorship in the past, a lot of mentorship to learn to see, where, like, do we have a solid foundation and structure? Do we have systems? Do we have a handbook? Do we have managing expectations with the coach? I think it starts with a lot of that stuff, understanding they need to understand what they expect of us and we expect of them, and so on and so forth. But outside of that, with the culture, I would say that James is, he spoke the other day about tech talk and tactics, right? I'm really good with tech. I'm really good with tactics. And then talk is something that I'm working on a lot. Like, what does being a good leader mean? That was a question I had for Carl and James as well this week, is what does that mean? What does it look like to lead a team really well? And it takes time and effort, communication, and making sure that we're all on board. And do you have any questions? And then explaining it, and leading with conviction and stuff like that. Did I answer your question? I kind of went on a little rant there for just a second, because that's kind of where I'm at right now. We had conversations with our staff about like being a better leader and what does that mean? Well, how can I help you? But yeah,
Definitely.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
You're here this week you're shooting some cool education for us. You're doing a lot of different types of things, and sometimes we'll see your stuff as a staff and we'll like share it across like Slack or something. And one question I always ask George, I'm like, how the hell does a guy have the time to put this shit together? Like your funny little like memes and stuff like that. But you're gonna discuss efficiencies and how to be efficient. What are your top X amount of things? I don't want to like put a number on this, but what are your top tips in creating an efficient workflow? Like, what are some things that you do in your own life, or in terms of like, putting the gym pieces together, the stuff that you do on the side? I'm sure you coach a bunch of people as well. Like, how do you do that efficiently?
Oh, set structure, and then honor that. If it's a priority, you'll probably get it done right. And if you're not, there's some friction there that you got to look at. But, learning how to use systems, learning how to create systems, learning how to reflect on your system to improve it again and again. As far as workflow, getting things done, making sure that you're even getting the right things done. You need to understand like where you want to go. What does your perfect day look like? What do you want out of all of this? You need to know that, and then you can audit where you're at. What do you do in your day-to-day? Okay, let's reverse engineer that. Okay, let's break it down. Now let's organize it and prioritize it. Okay, what needs to be done where? And of course you revisit it, and it takes a lot of time to make it your own process, But yeah, you've got to really learn how to use structure and systems, and then understand where you're at on the map as you're going through. Yeah.
I know we're working on this class that'll be released later in the year. So there's a lot of really, really great, like practical, tangible, hands-on ways that coaches can implement structure and improve systems that you're going to be sharing with that, Brandon. I would love to know, as a gym owner, you often hear this kind of like cliche that gym owners should be working on the business versus in the business. When it comes to like your time in your day, like what is that like? Are you in the gym coaching like in the business all the time, or are you dedicating time now to work more on the business and work bigger picture and strategy?
Yeah, like you've said before, there's seasons, right? You teach and then learn. And when I first started for quite a few years, same gym owner, like working 3 jobs, doing that stuff, I didn't have time to do anything except work in the business. And then it's trickled over time where I'm like, well, we should probably learn a little bit more, and then upgrade over time. And now it's structured. I have the luxury. I think sometimes people see my schedule. They see like it's very regimented, and I've got everything kind of like on, and I make time for memes as well too. But
you sure do.
Yeah, because I enjoy it. But I have that luxury now, and I've built that over a lot of time and understanding. But I wake up, and I just the way my brain works, I answer all of my messages. I get those out of the way, and then I design program, because that's the best time of the day for me to do it, when I'm fresh. And then we'll have meetings depending on the day as well too, with either my CFO Carl Case out there, or my full-time staff, and then I'll Robbie Fitness and Philosophy is going through CCP as well too. We'll do some teaching there, so we go over and we just talk about clients and stuff like that. I may do some coaching like here and there, but other than that, just the rest of it's kind of CEO tasks and stuff like that. With mentorship with Sam, I just create a lot of structure around learning there. So,
what are you most excited to teach people? Inside of that, like what's like the thing you're like, just like you're is it biting at the bit? Is that
chomping at the bit?
Chomping at the bit. Like what are you chomping at the bit to be like, I want to put this out there because no one else is saying it? Like, what are you excited?
On social media?
No, for this efficiencies thing, just talking about like structuring your day and all of that. Like, what are you excited to teach inside of that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I guess it just comes down to like the zooming out of everything. Just, do you know where you want to go, and do you know where you're starting relative to that? And then how do you break tasks down? How do you use tools to your advantage? Just the zooming out is the big part. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
In your business, are you the visionary, or are you the integrator? Are you the person at the top, like saying, "Hey, I want to do these things," and one of your other guys are figuring out how to do it? Or are you the integrator, the person that's putting the pieces into place?
I'm a little bit of both. I'm probably mostly integrator. Well,
okay.
It's I have a lot of, visionaries that will bring me ideas, and then I'm probably mostly the integrator on there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that question, because it's very rare to find someone that's good at both of those things.
Yeah.
Like being able to like take a step back and really look at everything that you're doing from an outsider's point of view, and then like flip the switch the next day and be the person that's now inside of that thing and figuring out like how to process this thing 1, 2, and 3 and push it out to your team and all that. So I think that's always an interesting conversation with someone that's running a sizable operation, where it's like, how are you doing this? And you have partners, right? Like what role do your partners play? Because you just called Carl the CFO, so I'm like, okay, so he's handling all the financials and all of that. You're the CEO, so I'm like, okay, are you the visionary? Like what role do your partners play in the business?
Yeah, so Carl's the only partner that I have, and he's the CFO, and he handles a lot of the tax, a lot of the financial stuff. I hate that stuff. That's probably the only thing in business that I just don't like.
It's the most important stuff, right?
Well, see, I don't mind. Like, I'll know the numbers, but I don't want to get in the spreadsheets and knock them around.
Yeah.
I don't like that stuff. And we just challenge each other a lot in the day-to-day stuff. That's honestly, I think it's a mutual role when it comes to a lot of that stuff. We have our meeting, we've got all these actionable items, and like we both mutually will kind of visionary and steer and have conversations and hard conversations about things. And my full-time staff as well too. We've had a lot of arguments over the years, which is constructive arguments, right? It's I really thank them for that. Yeah. So I feel like we all have had a lot of part to play in the visionary part of it. Yeah.
So Carl's doing the financial stuff and you're doing everything else.
Yeah, right. Like what other things? He runs sports performance camps, stuff like that. He coaches the sports performance people. He does all the merchandise and a lot of the other things. I would say is parted out as well too. And yeah, I mean, I've tried to think of like what else is there. There's floor coaching. We have all of our coaches that manage that. I manage a lot of the, everything to do with individual design is solely me in there. And then we have the day-to-day business operations as well too. I would say that I'm kind of the zoom out, where's the business going and what's going in. And then of course, like, the conversations with him on like, challenge me, so yeah.
Got it.
As someone who manages a sizable team of coaches, and you probably had people come and go over the years as well. Some people make it as a coach, some people just don't. They burn out. What would you say is like the biggest mistake that coaches you've seen make when it comes to being efficient and finding time to prioritize what they say their priorities are?
Oh gosh, just not prioritizing what they say. Yeah, that's essentially what it is, right? Like they say that this is important, but their actions aren't aligned with that. That's the biggest thing. So just making them aware with, due to a time study. Give me 2 weeks, everything that you do morning to night. Now let's look at that. So yeah, I would say that's a big one. Just either that or just, I have young coaches that I've talked to who they just aren't even sure what's out there. They're too young, not experienced enough or what have you to like even know what direction they want to go. And I think it all comes back to that, right? How are you spending your time? And then, where are you going? Yeah.
It's no different to working with people on their fitness, right? And helping clients find time to exercise and cook healthy food and get a walk in the sun inside their day. Like, it comes down to prioritization and looking at where are you currently spending your time, and what of that is dead time that we can shift to what you're saying your priorities are.
Yeah. Yeah, and making concessions. I'm sure there's a lot of distractions, right? There's a lot of things that I should be doing this, FOMO.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out on everything, but just understanding how to cut through that. And again, knowing where you want to go helps you kind of, carve that stuff out.
Yeah. So Brandon, you have a family. You have coaches underneath you, some part-time, some full-time. I know a question I get a lot, especially chatting to coaches on the phone who are looking for some career advice and trying to figure out where they want to go is, can someone actually make a sustainable career in fitness? Because not a lot of people do. Of the people that enter the industry, it's a small proportion of them that are still in the industry 20 years later, right? A lot of people, they're passionate about fitness. They love this thing. They want to share it with other people. They get in, get their feet wet for a couple of years, and then they burn out the other side as a trainer. So what is your perspective on that, and creating a, career that can pay for having a family and the things that you want in life? Is that realistic for everyone?
No, not at all. Yeah, you're right. It's open gym equals dollar signs, right? That's what they see. That's as simple as it is, right? Or, we've actually had, I think 5 gyms open up out of ours. And I've had conversations with a lot of them on why they want to open up a gym and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes you can suss out this is the wrong reason. This isn't going to work out that well. And it usually doesn't. If you're doing it as a money maker, or you don't have a passion in the gym, and maybe, I guess maybe it does, but I haven't really seen it work out that often. But gosh, yeah, I would say, rephrase the question here real quick.
Well, what makes some people successful in creating a career, a sustainable career in fitness, and other people not? Let's say it like that.
Yeah, doing it for the right reasons, possibly. Yeah. They do it because it's a side hustle. They do it because, it's, and they don't know where this model is going to bring them. I think that's a lot of times that's just misaligned. You're not going to make a full-time living as a part-time CrossFit coach. So yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Do you have any thoughts on that too, Carl?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. With questions like that, I always try to look at what's happening not only in the industry, but what happens in the world, right? So let's say it was owner centric, because you mentioned people go out, they open their own things, and most of the time it doesn't work. If we look at small business ownership outside of fitness, it's upwards of 80% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. And then 90% of those businesses that succeed fail before the 10-year mark. So we're just throwing fitness inside of there, and we're asking that question, but in a different way. So most businesses just fail, right? Most people aren't good at running businesses. So I think, if we're okay with that, we understand that fact, we can say, bakeries, we can say, yoga studios, we could say anything, and we're yeah, most people aren't going to succeed in that. The numbers just tell us that. So that's from a gym owner standpoint. But on the, can you create a sustainable career? Not on, let's say it's just, I just want to be a coach and I'm going to work for someone else. It's man, the things that Brandon were hitting on the priorities piece with why are you doing it? Where are you spending your time? And what is this thing actually leading to? I think a lot of those, I would venture to guess that a lot of those conversations that you had with those coaches, you may have asked the question where is this thing leading? And a very small percentage of those coaches had an answer to that. There's I don't know, what do you mean where is it leading? I want to coach people. I want to be in the fitness industry. But they don't know how much money do you want to make next year? How much money do you want to make in 3 years? Right? What does success look like financially to you? And how the hell are you going to get there? How long is it going to take to get there? Because imagine if Brandon had that conversation with one of those coaches and they were I want to make $80,000 a year, and it's going to take me 5 years to get there. Versus, I want to make $80,000 a year. Next year, they're going to be shit, I'm not successful. I'm not there yet, right? So it's that taking a step back and thinking about what the hell you want to do and where you want to go and how long is it going to take to get there is what keeps people on track, I think, right? Because you understand what your goals are and you're realistic in how long it's going to take to get to those goals. I remember when I first got into personal training, and I was probably 3 or 4 months in, and I was at I was at Bally's Total Fitness, and I thought I was going to be making like $6,000 a month. That was like the number, because I knew people that were making that, but they had been doing it for a lot longer than me, of course. And I got a couple months in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made $2,000 this month. This fucking sucks. But then I took a step back and I thought, like, okay, how long is it going to take me to get to $6,000 a month, right? Like, if I wouldn't have, like, for some reason just thought that in my own head, how long is it going to take? What is that path? I would have probably just, like, quit right there. I'd been like, this isn't for me. This isn't working. I'm failing. You know what I mean? So I think we have to think about those things. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does a sustainable career mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was really long, but those are the things that came in my head with, like, the gym owner piece and then the coach piece.
Yeah, I think a lot of new coaches don't really, or at least people wanting to open a facility, don't do their due diligence either. Okay, here's where I want to be, but before I get into it, what parts are involved in all of this, and how do I break those down? Like, who's going to market, who's going to do this? I think it's exciting to get that rush, and then you get into the dip of like, oh yeah, there's a lot, like someone has to do the taxes, someone has to do this, and then you realize how much time for every X amount of hours in your business, you have X amount of hours on your business, and they forget about the on the business part. Like, if I build it, people will show up, and then great success, right? They don't understand what's all involved, you know.
But I think too many people overcomplicate what's involved as well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think if we started off with, let's say that in any business, you're like, okay, I want to identify the 5 things that really matter, not the 25 things that I think matter, but I want to identify the 5 things that really matter, and I want to track those things religiously for a year, right? Those people are going to be in a much better spot versus the people that are like, there's 25 things I need to try to figure out how to track. They never actually do anything, because when they look at that list of 25 things, it's super overwhelming. They're trying to like learn how to be like an MBA overnight and stuff. You know what I mean? I think that list, in fitness especially, is a lot smaller than what a lot of people are telling them that they need to do, right? Like, you read any article and it's like, the top 25 things you need to understand to run a successful business. And it's like, gosh, you don't need to know, X, Y, and Z. Like, this coach has 6 clients right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's focus on 5 instead of 25. So I think in the industry, it's just overcomplicated a lot of the times because people want to sound smart.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah,
you got to know this, you got to know that, you got to know that. It's like, yeah, maybe in 10 years that would be beneficial. But for where you're at right now, that doesn't fucking matter at all.
Yeah, I guess that list has to scale with you and your business, right? Yeah, that makes sense. That if I'm talking to somebody who's like, they just finished CCP and they're ready to coach, I'm like, okay, teach, move, learn, create. Here you go, right? You start doing this, and then if you've got a business with 300 people, maybe that list gets a little longer. Now you have people delegated and prioritize on who should do what. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like the systems thing, right? Where it's like, what are the best systems to use in fitness? It's like, what do you need? It's like, do you need a CRM? Do you need automation? Do you need this? Do you need that? And it's like, well, it depends on how many people you have in your as a contact in your thing, whatever that thing is. It depends on how many clients you have. It's like, you don't need to automate everything if you have 16 clients. Like, you could probably start to think about how you're going to systematize that stuff. But I think people need to think about what their priorities are based on the maturity of their business. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we get ahead of ourselves a little bit sometimes, where it's like we're thinking about a really well-established system where it's like, okay, when I'm at, the 5-year mark, these are the things that I need to think about. Those, like, people are thinking about the 5-year mark now. They're like, I need to put all these things in place. I need to systematize, automate. I need to do all these things, and they're not even acquiring clients yet, right? So I think it's a good thing for coaches to think about. It's like, where am I at, and what do I need in terms of systems and automation based on where I'm at right now?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those other things may be involved, but you kick them down later on the timeline.
Yeah.
You don't want to set yourself up to have a total mess and a shit show 5 years from now when you do have 300 clients. But the reality is you got to look after the lowest hanging fruit first, right? And not overlook those pieces for the sake of, the shiniest systems and this thing that might be important when you're at that 300 number.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of parallels in fitness and business with that. Yeah.
Definitely there is.
What do you think, Georgia? What are you answer your own question. Do you think a coach can, or what are the biggest reasons why most coaches aren't able to create sustainable, let's call it professions or businesses out of coaching, whatever model it is that they're in? What do you think that problem is?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Brandon largely in that they're just not thinking ahead as to what that actually means and figuring out and defining what success would look like to them.
I think I said that.
Did you say that? And I just credited it to Brandon. Sorry, Carl.
No, I definitely said
You
that.
said that, right? You were the smart one. No, I think that it's one thing to say I want to be successful and I want to have sustainability and longevity and make 100K, doing this thing, but actually sitting down and really thinking about like, what do I want out of my job, not just tied to a dollar number, but also thinking about the lifestyle you want to lead and how your job may or may not support that. Because there's, elements of fitness and being a fitness coach that can be really challenging for work-life balance. Some of the hours are weird, which can be tough with having a family and trying to create that balance there. So I think it's figuring out, number one, what is that number that I want to make X years from now to support, the things that I want to be able to do in life and have financial security. And number two, how can I make sure I'm doing that in a way that aligns with the lifestyle I want to lead? Because it's one thing to make that 80K number and be working from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. and have no time to spend with your husband or, with your friends. It's another thing to be making that, 80K and work realistic hours. I think people evolve as well, right? Like what we love to do when we enter the workforce initially, when we first have this idea of like what we want to do in coaching, that changes. People naturally want to evolve and grow in their careers, and they don't want to do the same thing that they did in year 1, in year 10. So it's also thinking about how can I evolve and grow as a coach? And maybe that's not true. Maybe there are some people that want to be in the trenches coaching, the same kinds of clients for the rest of their life. But I think a lot of people love new and novel challenges in their careers as well. And it can get monotonous, right? Like coaching can get a little bit monotonous unless you're figuring out new ways to challenge yourself and new ways to grow and, perhaps going into gym ownership or doing some other kind of something else, on top of it, or changing that service offering, going from just exercise to be able to coach nutrition as well. Like there's got to be some kind of growth there. So I think long answer is just making sure that you know what success in the future means to you.
What do you guys, let me ask you guys a question, and let's not even think about fitness, because if I were to ask you about names, I don't think that we could all get on the same page and the people listening and understand who the hell that you're talking about. So fitness is excluded. Name like a couple people that come to mind when you think of success, like this person is successful. Jeff Bezos, successful, right? Like that dude's successful, probably.
Bill Gates.
Right? Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
I'm like
Elon Musk.
Yeah. What else?
These are just all a bunch of people who like make a lot of money and have a lot of influence.
No, just okay. Go a different way. Yeah.
Ooh.
Like who are some successful people?
Yeah, for some reason I'm like thinking about Jamie Oliver. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Emma is sitting in this room, but yeah, I'm thinking less along those lines and more along like the type of work and experience they have in the day to day.
Yeah, like LeBron James. I would say he's a very successful person. Joe Biden's probably successful.
Fair.
Because he's like a president, right? So I think that's something.
Are you defining success?
Well, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Let's just throw some names around.
Okay. Oh man.
It can't be that hard to identify. The Rock is a successful.
The Rock. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that struck a chord.
Love the Rock.
I'm on.
Yeah.
We could talk about the Rock later. I'm a fan.
Stanley.
Stanley. I thought you said Stanley. I'm like Stanley.
You know Stanley down the road.
Yeah, Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Well, he was successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. One more, Georgia.
Oof.
Give me one more.
One
Take it back
more.
home. Someone from back home that's like successful that we would all know.
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, there we go.
So why are we saying all these people are successful? What's the theme?
I think we're pulling out like, money,
Yeah.
fame, like they've built something, right? They
Yeah.
could, Jeff Bezos could be incredibly unhappy.
Yeah.
But maybe he's defining success as money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But we're defining success for them, right? We don't know if they're successful,
Yeah.
right?
I look at it a different way. I think what everyone has in common that we all just said, the names that we just said, is they got to a place, maybe excluding Joe Biden, I don't know enough about that guy, but they're all at a place where they can do whatever the fuck they want, right? They can do whatever they want, right? So it's like whatever fulfills these people, they can probably, if they change their mind tomorrow, they can go and do that thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. When I think of success, and I think that I think it goes across the board. I think everyone's definition of success is very similar to this, but it's someone that is secure in what they're doing, and they have they're not like attached to this thing where it's like, if I stop doing this thing, my life is over. Like, they have options. You know what I mean? They're like, they've and maybe it's because they've put in the work and they've made enough money where now that allows them to have options. But when I think of a successful person, I'm like, that person isn't like tied to anything really, right? Like, they've done enough in their life, whatever the hell that means, to get to a point where they can actually make any kind of decision that they want. And I know I'm like guessing because I have no idea what the hell Nicole Kidman is doing today, but
She might be, have a contract where she has to fold, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. But I just think of all these people, and I'm like, man, if Bezos, it's like, if Bezos wants to do, if Bezos wants to quit being the CEO of Amazon and he wants to go to space tomorrow, he could do it. Well, he fucking did it, right?
Yeah.
Like, those people aren't like really tied to anything. They've done enough in their lives where they're just like, yeah, I can pivot if I want to. I don't know. That's what I think about. I think that's where I think of like freedom and success and all that. That might be bias in my own head. Biden keeps throwing me off on that. I should have brought him up because he's ruining my argument. But
you never know what's going on inside those people's heads, right? And like what the inner turmoil is, what the like self-imposed pressures are. I remember looking at like my dream job, and I said, Jamie Oliver, like kind of like food, travel, TV presenter, like something to do with that. So Anthony Bourdain to me was like, he had the dream job, like he had the dream life, that guy. And then he killed himself. So you just like, you never know. It could appear that someone has this like incredible freedom and opportunity and they can do whatever the hell they want. But to them in that moment, there's no other option than what they're doing, or some other exit route out. So.
Yeah, which brings us to our next point, right? It depends. Like, that's our perception of all these people. Well, I gave my perception, but I think that's like if we were to go down the line and we're like, what are the synergies between all the people we just said? We would come up with one thing, but we would be wrong. You know what I mean? It's like their success is their success, right? So it's like each one of them have a different version of that. You know what I mean? So I think that's really important to think about. Someone might look like they're successful, and another person might spend a lot of time trying to emulate that person and like bowing down to that person and being like, they're good, their lives are perfect. And then you open up the news tomorrow and you're like, oh my God, that person committed suicide. They probably weren't that happy with the Bourdain thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, is everyone has to understand what success really means to them. Like, no one's ever going to be happy if they don't understand what they want to do and what they think will make them happy.
Yeah.
What's your version of success?
Yeah, I'm
Brandon?
just thinking and just listening to you guys. These are all kind of like, they're all at the top of the hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
They've got security, they've got all those things in place. And I've heard this before. The job, the schedule, or the money. You can pick two, right? You can have the job and the schedule, but you can't have the money, so on and so forth, right? But it's kind of, they have all three. They can manage that, and then their security's met, their emotional needs are met, like everything is met, and then they have the ability to pursue what they want. So yeah, you just enlightened me a little on success. But like, yeah, that's what I would, I have time to make memes.
Yeah.
About OPEX. I have time. I find it restorative to me to make fun of people within OPEX, and enjoy it. So,
Did you guys hear there was and now I'm just kind of ranting, sorry. There's like a top level executive from Goldman Sachs. It was a couple weeks ago. She like put out this this statement of like how they recruit investment bankers and what it takes to be a successful investment banker. And I think where she was coming from was the 10,000 hour thing, where she's like, they need to get this much experience. But she's like, we need to expedite that now. So she's like, to be a successful investment banker, you actually need to work, I think it was 80 or 90 hours a week. Like that's like you have to do that to step in the door here now, because investment banking, that's a very, very competitive environment. Like if you're not bringing in, your X amount of $1 billion quota per quarter, you're out of there really quickly. Upside is huge. Successful investment bankers make a lot of money. What are your guys' thoughts on a top level executive saying like, don't even think about being successful in this world? But she was kind of saying like, in any world, if you're not willing to put in the work and get your hands dirty the first 5 years of being in that thing. And her thing was like, kids coming out of college, they need to be ready to work 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week to be successful. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Oh, I think kids coming out of college don't always even really know what they want, and money, right? That money is the priority, and that's what they see, and that's what they want. And I don't even know if it's always really much further than that.
Yeah.
And then they choose that, and they choose that direction, and then they get there, and they're like, oh, this is not where I wanted to be, right? Or maybe it is. It affords them the luxury to, do the things they want, Yeah, what do you think, Georgia?
I mean, that was my perception of the workforce leaving uni. I wanted to go into law. I didn't.
University or college?
University, sorry.
Translation.
Uni. Look at me. I wanted to go into law. I did an internship at a law practice, in Sydney, and I remember some of the people telling me, they're till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight working, and then they're back there at like 6, 7 the next day. And so that was what I thought my 20s were going to be like, and I was okay with that at that point. I sit, here now at the tail end of my 20s looking back on them and thinking, thank God I didn't go down that route, because I probably would be pretty unhealthy, pretty burnt out. But I also might be making a lot more money. So there is, that side of things there. I do think as a society, we need to look at the quality of work we're putting out, and can someone actually be efficient working 80 to 90 hours a week? Are companies getting the best out of their employees if they're asking them to do that? Maybe. Maybe. They may be sucking them completely dry so that they're hopeless for the next 10 years after, though, as well. So I don't know the answer, because it's like, can a human actually be an effective worker for that period of time and then through the rest of their life? Or would it a more moderate approach? We talk about sustainability in the gym, just to connect it to something that we know. We talk about, it may take a longer time to get results. If you start off, with a sustainable approach to fitness, you're not going to get as fit quick as someone who comes in and goes hot and hard and super intense. But that person's going to burn out after a couple of years, and you're going to continue to see results for the long term. So I think we do want to think about people's professional careers and their effectiveness and efficiency over their lifetime. And if they're, in it hard for those first 5 years, number one, is the quality of work in those 5 years actually great? Or is there a bunch of dead time in there that's actually being wasted because they're exhausted? And then
at a company like this, no dead time. Yeah. There's so much pressure in that world where if you're not delivering those results, like you're gone, right?
Yeah.
So I get it from that standpoint, because it isn't like, I'm gonna clock in and I'm gonna look at Facebook and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and you look at your screen time at the end of your work day. Like, those people are working 14 hours, and it's like, well, you spent 8 hours on Facebook. In that world, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
So but I do agree. It's like, you do have to look at the quality of work and what's happening there. But hey, that might be someone's version of success, right? Like, going in and just absolutely crushing it for 5 years to afford them the opportunity to kind of coast a little bit after that, or get into a position where they can coast a little bit and not, work their hands to the knuckles and stuff like that.
For sure. Industry is a good show on that topic. I think it was on HBO, but it's about some young investment bankers in London entering the workforce, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. So I would recommend Industry.
Awesome.
For anyone that has HBO.
Check it out.
Yeah. What do you think about it? You posed the question.
Gosh, yeah, I don't have any hard feel, or I'm not steadfast that much on either side. For me, I have strong feelings for myself personally, but I think it just depends on what the industry is, and what you have to do to be successful in that industry. Investment banking is such a polarized industry in terms of like what you have to do, how hard you have to work, the competition, especially when you're talking about, a company like Goldman Sachs. It's like you have a better chance of getting into Harvard than getting hired on as an investment banker there, right? So I think it just depends, right? If we're talking about, doing something that needs to be sustainable, right? Like let's say, being an entrepreneur and like, having the fulfillment and waking up excited every day. It's like, that's probably not a great approach to that. Like putting in 90 hours a week, because that excitement is probably going to fizzle eventually, not because you don't enjoy doing the work, but you're just not enjoying life, right? So I do think there has to be balance in some places and in some industries, but it depends on the place or the industry. Hedge a little bit, but yeah, it depends. It depends on what the person's doing.
Do you think somebody that loves investment banking, they just love it every day? It's so delicious, and they work 90 hours and they just love every second of it. Do you think there's any kind of balance that can be created there?
Balance. I guess we'd have to define balance.
Yeah, balance. I guess without getting churned out of the back end.
Yeah, I think someone can be extremely unbalanced for a long period of time and still be engaged.
Okay.
If that person is looking for balance, I don't think they could do it. But that person that you just described is probably not looking for balance. That person's looking to fucking like win, right?
Yeah,
like they're waking up and they're excited. They don't care that they got 4 hours of sleep last night.
Yeah.
Like they're rolling. They're looking at their balance sheet at the end of every day, every week, every month, and they're just like, that gets them going. Yeah. So yeah, I think that person isn't looking for balance. But if a person in that industry is looking for balance, I think they'll fizzle out very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I don't think they'd be successful.
I have one last question for you, Brandon. So we've kind of joked about your meme making a few times on this podcast. And for those that have not seen Brandon's memes before, you should follow him on Instagram for sure, because he puts hilarious content out. What's your handle?
At Coach Brandon Wilton.
There we go. Give him a follow. But humor. You use sense of humor a lot. Has that always been something that you've kind of fallen back on to communicate with, or where did that come from?
Yeah, it's kind of my love language, I guess. Humor, and I was always actually an introvert. This is terrifying right now, being on a podcast right now to me. I'm just terrified inside.
Sorry for scaring
I'm
you.
just kidding. No, but really, I think that's how I always just kind of learned to connect growing up, was through humor, and I enjoy it. I enjoy like putting my thoughts and ideas out through humor. I think I can, it's a good way for me to put things out rather than, Instagram, throwing, putting my butt on Instagram and.
You do that sometimes.
I do that sometimes.
I've seen that.
But I do it through humor.
That's okay, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Every joke has, there's truth behind every joke. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
there is.
The truth in that is that you want to show your ass on Instagram. You're just looking for the correct avenue to do
I might. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Anything you want to finish with, Carl?
No, I think that's it. Thanks,
All
Brandon.
right,
We
yeah.
appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank
man.
you for having me.
Great to have you
buddy.
here. If people want to find you, let's say someone is in the South Bend area and they're looking for an amazing gym to go and join, throw out your info.
Yeah, go to CrossFitSouthBend.com. You can go there. You can DM me, slide into my DMs at Coach Brandon Wilton, and I can take care of you there as well.
Get
too.
some of those butt pics.
Yeah, get some of those butt pics. I know auto replies with them. Yeah.
Ooh,
So,
yes,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And Brandon has some awesome content coming your guys' way later on this year, so please stay tuned for that. He's sharing some of the tips he's learned, around efficiency and time management over the years with coaches. Again, some really practical, hands-on, tangible advice. So we're filming that later in the week, and excited for that to come to life. So stay tuned, guys. Quick little reminder: if you are a CCP coach, Coaches Summit tickets are on sale, so please make sure you go ahead and buy your pass. We'll pop a link to that summit in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe.
What is it?
Smash that like button.
Gosh, I forgot the things. The like in this. Remember last week I had something?
Yeah, like, review, subscribe. You had little hand actions to go with them.
I forgot that.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it,
Do those
guys.
things.
Give us
Do
some
those
love. We like it. Brandon, thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.